Today I am going to talk to you about the most horrible picture of our unorganized labor in India. Their numbers today stand around 500 million. In India, we call it 50 crore. And this figure has been corroborated by no less than in the budget speech last year, the Finance Minister Piyush Goyal himself quoted this figure and also said their contribution to our GDP is more than 50%. Similarly, Santosh Gangwar, our Union Minister for Labour, also while presenting the Labour Wage Code Bill, he also narrated this whole figure and said their contribution is more than 50% of the GDP. We who have been working among these unorganized labor, and most of them happen to be like bonded labor, modern day victims of slavery and child labor, and all of them constitute a huge chunk of our labor force, as much as 92 to 94%. But the difference between the organized sector and the unorganized sector of labor is huge. The organized sector laborers are being guaranteed a wage, a minimum wage, which is just according to the Supreme Court judgments and according to the Supreme Court other judgments. And therefore, I would not say it is enough, but still it is much above. While these 500 million of our unorganized labor do not have a guarantee of work even for 100 days in a year. They don't have guarantee of the state fixed minimum wages. In fact, the Manrega, that means the Mahatma Gandhi Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, does not guarantee them, as per law, the minimum wages as fixed by that particular state. And they are giving much lower than that. Even that is not being received for months and months on end, that simply gets unpaid. And therefore, the plight of these unorganized laborers has been mounting ever since India became independent in 1947. 2.5 years later, we became a republic in 1950, 26th of January to be precise. And the Constitution, Article 14, 15, 16 guarantees equal work, equal pay. Why is that not being implemented? More than half a dozen division bench judgments of the Supreme Court, which are considered to be law in itself, unto itself. Why have they not been implemented? So many parties and so many governments and so many seminars, everything has been organized around this issue. But nobody takes it seriously because most of these unorganized laborers happen to be from the Dalit community, from the Adivasi community, that is tribal, indigenous people, and women, and from minorities, Muslims and others. And perhaps this is the only reason why the ruling elite does not care to implement its own constitution, its own parliamentary, whatever provisions are there, laws, etc. So much so that in 1979, when I was also in the government, the same party, Janata Party, Morarji Desai was our Prime Minister. Ravindra Verma, the then Labour Minister in this union, he introduced a land path-breaking law. This law was passed by the Parliament called Interstate Migrant Workmen's Act 1979. 40 years down the line, so many governments have changed, but no government ever implemented this law. Not one single person out of these 50 crore, 500 million laborers benefited out of it. Migration became a rule rather than an exception. People are being exploited in their home village because of the caste and other factors, landlessness, etc. And therefore, they are forced to migrate. This is not a migration for a better deal. This is called distress migration. because out of hunger and without shelter, these people migrate to distant places, nearly more than 1,000 miles away, 800 kilometers away, something like that. And now when this pandemic came, and suddenly, without even consulting his own outfit called National Disaster Management Authority, of which the Prime Minister himself is the chairperson, and without laying out a national plan about how to help these migrant laborers spread all over the country to go back safely to their home and hearth wherever they wanted to, and only then the lockdown should have been implemented. Within 4 hours, 8 o'clock he announces in the night, and 12 o'clock it is clamped. And the whole nation is stunned. But most of these migrant laborers, they are the worst hit. The rooms in which they have been crammed into like sheep, 10 to 15 laborers in one room, and not enough facilities for their toilet or bath or anything like that. And all the stench they have been suffering from because of drains and other things nearby which their apartments have been built. And they have been rendered jobless, without pay, and they have been told by their employers to vacate the rooms. They are nowhere to go. The government could not immediately organize some special trains for them or special buses for them. They went about taking care of those middle class people or high middle class people, those who were stranded outside of the country. Air India and other airlines brought them back free of charge. Thousands of them were brought back from all over the world. To tell you the plight of these bonded laborers, unorganized laborers, and among them are nearly 200 million of our migrant laborers. And these migrant laborers have to leave their village, family, everything behind and go to far off places. And why? Why in long 70 years of our republic, we could not manage to abolish this type of unemployment, which leads to destitution, which leads to distress migration, which leads to exploitation of all sorts. In fact, this type of a migration can also be called trafficking in human beings. And this is a crime. This is against the law. But it has been taking place under the very nose of our elected democratic governments for decades and decades. Why has our system failed to take up their cause? So many Supreme Court judgments are there, constitutional provisions are there, the laws are there, and if sincerely they are implemented. So on that note, I had expected, I am appealing, I am beseeching our Prime Minister Narendra Modi to take up their cause in a big way, so that no more of these laborers have to suffer. Will he be able to prioritize over everything else? Tomorrow when he is going to give some sort of a scope for loosening this lockdown, will he take care of their plight, send them back to their native places, or will he continue serving the elite, serving the upper middle class and such other people, and ask them to maintain social distancing and do this and do that? So this is not going to help the plight of these poorest of the poor people. And therefore, I beg of you, kindly send your messages to the Prime Minister to prioritize this very issue. Tell him that he owes it to Indian Constitution. He owes it to Mahatma Gandhi. He owes it to all of our great founding fathers of our nation. And mothers of our nation, who expect the Prime Minister to take it up urgently. And that is my request to you, my friends. Do everything possible, and we want to assure you that 40 years long we have been taking up their cause, and the Supreme Court judgment, which came in 1983, on 16th of December 1983, clearly lays down that anyone who is not getting minimum wage should be considered a bonded labor. And these 500 million of them are not assured of regular work, even 100 days in a year, and they are not assured of minimum wages. So they all fall under this category. And of these, those who migrate, they become the most helpless and hapless victims of these type of exploitative practices. So I'm sure you will raise your voice, I will raise my voice, and we all should collectively raise our voice to take up their plight. And very soon I am going to appeal to you for funds, crowdfunding sort of thing. As soon as I get some platform or something ready, I will appeal to you, because for us, this is the most important cause we have been espousing for years and years now. And this is the time this whole thing has got highlighted first time in India's history. So, coronavirus, whatever disaster it has caused, but there is some opening for a new beginning. And that new beginning is a challenge for each one of us. Should we not all feel challenged, each one of us, and say, what can I do to rebuild our economy on the lines where nobody is stuck up in that dehumanizing poverty? Nobody is rendered so powerless, helpless, that they are being beaten up by the police, stranded on the roads, highways, everywhere. Why it should happen to anybody, anywhere in the world? So please take it up, and I'll come back to you very soon. So please raise your voice. Thank you all very, very much.